This week's top 10 video is full of surprises, Magic lovers. Welcome back to the weekly installment of the hottest selling cards in Magic the Gathering this week. You're going to see a whole bunch of standard cards and a few modern cards that might surprise you. So don't worry, we're going to take this together and we'll make it to the end. Let's get started. Welcome back everyone, mtgmoxman here, and we've got a lot to cover in today's video. It's pretty exciting to see some of these new cards on the list this week and a few surprises one probably wouldn't have expected. So don't worry, we'll make it through this 10-minute video together and then we can talk about stuff at the very end in the finance section. So let's get things started. We're going to be stopping in at number 10 this week, and it comes to us from Lord of the Rings. That's right guys, we are looking at the One Ring, if you can believe it. Now, the One Ring has been falling in price. We have a ban possibly coming up this week. It's got people talking. There's been 519 sales, and let's face it, this is a very good card. It is a powerful card that is found in many different decks inside of Modern, and that's why it's most likely to get a Modern ban. The good news is it doesn't dominate any single deck. It is there in lots of decks. It's played everywhere. It's basically an auto-include, and it's played in what, like 64 to 71% of total decks, but it's not like a Nadu, right? When you look at Nadu, the combo pattern for this card can just make it unstoppable, whereas the One Ring just kind of gives you an edge that has to be dealt with. So that's one of those things we don't have to worry about every time with the One Ring, which means maybe there's hope. Number 9 this week is from Foundations, and this is the Leyline Axe. Now, it's only $2.20, not a super expensive card, but it is starting to rack up an impressive amount of sales this week, even though the value of the card is not that expensive. Now, you're going to find this card quite a bit right now. It's being played in things like Modern, Pioneer. We've seen it go into Standard. Now, the idea that this is in your opening hand is one thing, but what cards are people comboing it with? Well, in Standard, you're going to see things like the Heartfire Hero here, the Mouse Soldier. If he can get pumped up enough, that Leyline Axe is going to do a lot for him because it's going to be on the battlefield at the beginning. Not to mention cards like Slick Shot, Sure Shot gives him a little bit of extra power because he gets the +1/+1, which means he may not be exactly killable with the 2-point damage cards we're fond of seeing right now. So with these kind of combination cards in line, a card like this is going to continue to see a lot of sales action. Now, our number 8 card this week is from Duskmourn. Now, Kaito, the bane of nightmares. I have seen this card so much in the last 2 weeks, I'm not surprised it's here. Now, 790 sales, and this card is $23.81. So what's going on with this card that makes it a little more unique than other Planeswalkers in the last couple of years? It's the fact of his number 1 ability, okay? During his turn, the passive ability says that he's that ninja, and that ninja lets him give emblems, and it gives lots of combos. When you see him being used with things like the Cavern Bat, being able to pick off things that may target Kaito later on means you're going to see these guys protecting him early on. Cards like Marvin the Murderous Mimic, he'll come into the deck, he's going to start copying abilities and really pumping Kaito up. These are things you have to be aware of because this deck and this synergy is all over the place, okay? It's well put together and he is seeing play in a lot of Standard decks right now. I'm not sure about Modern, but I know in Standard he's everywhere. Our number 7 card from Foundations is Phyrexian Arena. Now, this card, it's cheap. It's $1.27, which is awesome for players who are looking for a budget Standard deck. This card synergizes with quite a few cards I'm going to share with you right now, just to let you know how this thing is going to work for you. Let's not forget that there are different versions of the card offering different art treatments, and they're all pretty affordable right now, which is pretty awesome. You can pick your poison there and just enjoy different framework there. But when we look at how this card is going to work with other cards, taking a card like this and putting it with something like Shieldred seems pretty reasonable, right? Except for Shieldred's very expensive. But there are cheaper versions you can go looking for. It doesn't have to be a Shieldred card. You can jump things in and take a look at things like Glissa. Now, she is going to ramp it up because don't forget, the arena is going to let you draw, but so does Glissa when she hits things, okay? She's going to draw cards for you and you're going to lose a life. It doesn't matter because you're drawing so many cards. Remember that synergy is key with this card and it works in a lot of different color combinations. Now, for our next card, we're taking a look at Bolt Wave. This thing's been around for a while. And this thing's just a superior version of Lava Spike. When we take a look at Bolt Wave here and you see it does 3 damage to each opponent, that's fantastic, okay? It's still under $5, it does a lot, and it's going to see play for a very long time. But when you look at how this card has evolved from different versions that were offered back in the day, like Lava Spike was so sad in comparison. It just does 3 damage to target player. Now you have a card that's going to do 3 damage to each player for the exact same mana cost. So you're never going back. Bolt Wave is going to be the replacement going forward until Wizards builds an even better card somewhere down the line, which means Bolt Wave is more likely to hold value over the longer term than people realize. Get a couple of copies, be happy, because it's going to fit into a lot of commander decks for a very long time. Wizards isn't likely to replace it. Our number 5 card this week, again, is from Duskmourn, the House of Horrors, and this card is one I like to talk about because I'm using it a lot myself and having a lot of success. Now, Split Up is a 2 white 1 casting cost, but its selective ability of destroying targets that are tapped or untapped can really help you out in the game. It can hit short-term targets or wait for a massive board wipe late in the game when somebody tries to flood the board with a whole bunch of creatures. It also can escape counter spells because you could have 2 in your hand when they may only have 1 counter spell available. But the other thing I like to do is with cards like Authority of Console. When you use this thing, all their stuff comes into play tapped, so you already know what you're going to destroy. That kind of card, this is a good thing, okay? It helps you out because you gain life and you mess them up, and then Split Up wipes out the targets. A very nice combination card you should consider using. Our number 4 card this week really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. It is Torch the Tower. This card has risen over 600% in the last 7 days, and that's due to this card's versatility and what it can do on the battlefield. Now, as a Wilds of Eldraine card, it is an instant, but it is superior to Shock. It can do more, and it offers more of a deal for the casting cost. When you look at Torch the Tower, with the bargain ability, the 2 damage to a target creature or planeswalker, right? But if it's bargained, it does 3 damage, and you get to scry. Now, when you look at Shock, it's just 2 damage to a target. It's pretty lame in comparison, and this just kind of demonstrates the power creep we've been seeing. So Torch the Tower has really been taking the headwind on this and gaining a lot of market share of value, and it's unlikely to go down anytime soon when you compare it against a card like Shock. So I'm not surprised this card has taken the number 4 spot this week. Now, our number 3 card is a bit of a surprise to me. This, again, is from Foundations, the Archmage of Runes. Yeah, it's a giant and it's got some cool stuff as a wizard, making your stuff cost less. But this has mainly been used as a sideboard card that I've seen in gameplay on a Friday Night Magic. I've almost never had to face off and square off against it. But I guess if you mix this thing with things like the Haunted Djinn and stuff, you get a whole bunch of instants and stuff going, and they cost less to use. You can pump him up. You can get things going. It kind of makes sense that you may be able to combo this more and more, but that 5 casting cost is a bit of a thing. But you do see this thing in gameplay with things like with Ral Zarek, okay? The Crackling Wit here. They do kind of fit together, as well as the Tolarian Terror, the Serpent. You can see how these will synergize together to create a pretty brutal aggro deck pretty quickly for blue. So don't underestimate it. You're going to see it more often, probably in the next couple of months. Now, our number 2 card is the Banner of Kinship from Foundations. Now, this card, because of the tribal themes we can now see in Standard, because there's so many more inclusionary sets and they're here for a longer period of time, and Foundations linking a lot of this together, we are seeing cards like the Banner of Kinship get more play. Now, if you're looking for decks that are using this kind of card, you're going to look at Aggro Cats. This thing is definitely being one of those cards that gets utilized, right? And because of the different themes that you can use with cats, you've also got other cards that can pump them up and really make these cards start to get larger, bigger, and scarier. But it's not only the cats that are going to do it, right? You're also going to see this with elves. And because we're seeing a longer context of how the game is built, you might see more of these tribal themes start to appear. And that means that the Banner of Kinship is going to get a lot more play. But it's not the number 1 card, let's forget. Let's get to the number 1 card. Now, our number 1 card, although I'm showing you the Kaladesh version, it's not from Kaladesh. This is the Foundations version. Now, when we take a look at the Authority of Consoles, this thing is basically being played in any white weenie deck out there. Anything playing it is going to have this card because of what it can do. And of course, I threw in the Kaladesh thing because of what's going on in the news. But let's keep in mind that this card offers something to white that it needed. It needed to be able to slow people down like a red aggro deck and stop the forge and stop cards from hitting you. It works in perfect concert with cards like Split Up, being able to select your targets and pick them off. And don't forget, Split Up is also on the list this week. And you're also seeing this thing used in many commander decks. This thing's starting to branch out because of its ability to slow things down and get you back on track. It also counts as an enchantment, and I'm showing you guys a couple of the commanders that this thing is often played with. Either way, this was your number one card this week. Let's get to the wrap up now. You may have noticed the theme like I did at the end of today's video. When you're thinking about the cards you saw being bought, we're seeing a lot of standard cards get picked up right now. We're seeing modern cards get picked up and a couple of cards that will fit into certain commander decks. But the overall sales volumes, of course, are much lower at this point in the year. I'm not really surprised now this close to Christmas, we're seeing the numbers just drop off a cliff. But the cards that are being bought are mainly being bought for budget, low-level standard decks. These aren't the top dog decks, but these decks will work, they will function, and they are competitive. These are things that are going to work. Those white weenie aggro decks and stuff, they can face off against a red aggro deck because they can hold them off with cards like the console. They got life gain going in. They are an exact counterman to what you're seeing. Kaito and stuff, it's a more expensive deck. It's not going to be as cheap. But when you're playing Demir, you're going to see that black-blue deck be built up, and you're going to see the Cavern Bats. You're going to see all these nice combos. It's a more expensive deck, but it is much more aggressive than people realize, and it is really starting to dominate a lot of the gameplay I've seen locally, as well as what I've seen on Arena. And I do play a lot of Arena right now. I've been doing a lot of extra hours on the weekend just to see different decks and how they face off. And I gotta be honest, I love to see the versatile deck construction ideas we have now. I'm not seeing the same linear decks over and over and over again. I'm seeing a whole bunch, and yes, I'm winning, yes, I'm losing, and yes, I'm still frustrated with Arena, but the idea that we get to see a lot more is very good for the game. It is healthy to see this many new ideas coming around, and I hope this sparks more of gameplay into actual standard tournaments where players are willing to try and see if they can make new decks work and kind of break things up a bit. Either way, the sales really do demonstrate that that's where we're at right now in the market space. People are building decks that aren't going to cost a ton of money, but are still going to be competitive and fun to play. Now, here at the very, very end, if you made it this far in the video, I did try something new in today's video. I noticed I got some comments from players who were wondering if I could switch it up a bit. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you guys found this one a little more informative with some of the gameplay and some of the ideas of how these cards get used together. And if you did, drop some comments in the comment section. Let me know if you enjoyed this way of doing the videos more than my regular way of doing it. And I'm happy to continue doing it this way. Guys, thanks again for hanging out with me today. I look forward to seeing you guys later on, of course, for the Sunday edition of the Reserve List. And of course, the live stream 6:30 Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Have a great day, everyone. Shop smart, shop S-Smart, and I'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, here we are at the end of the video, and I just want to take a moment to make sure everyone realizes that this video is sponsored by the patrons of the channel. It isn't brought to you by outside sponsorship. These are the people who make it happen each and every day, and these are the ones who are backing my channel. So thanks again to each and every one of you. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing content like this, and I just want to make sure you all know how great it is. Oh, welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. Oh, we're already out of time? Sorry, guys. You got to be here sooner. Why'd you make me wait so long? I'll see you guys tomorrow.